Dark Souls just isn't for everyone. I'm not so big into Dark Souls, but if you took Dark Souls and made a strategy game, a tactical deck builder from its design ideas, does that make it more palatable to more gamers? More importantly, do I dig it? That was the question that I kept thinking about when I played Death Howl. It makes an amazing first impression with its very unique art style that I can only describe as line drawn illustration animated in a very old school sort of way. There's nothing quite like it, well, almost, because the developers of Death Howl is a small indie dev called The Outer Zone, and their previous games have a similar art style. This pixel art hand-drawn style, which Death Howl is very much a more polished version of their aesthetic compared to their previous itch.io games. Death Howl takes its inspiration from a few different games. It's not just an homage to Dark Souls, it's more than that. It has an open world map that seamlessly shifts to different biomes or areas. I think they're called realms. Discovering the mysteries of the new realms is great. It feels like a light exploration game at times. There are quests to solve, hidden loot and hidden caves to find, weird dream-like environments, which, yeah, this is a dream world, or rather spirit world, inspired by Scandinavian folklore. You can absolutely see and hear the attention to details and the effort these developers have put into making this game. You will never feel like this is a small or lower budget game. No, not at all. Small doesn't mean a lower production quality. It has its own aesthetic and vibe that if you dig it, I think you will be spending a lot of time in this game. I do think Death Howl, very much similar to games like Silk Song, are a testament to the fact that smaller teams can produce something way more memorable than AAA slop. Can I even call them slop? Maybe subpar AAA game experiences. It is one of those rare games that manages to hit the level of quality I think not many games reach, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Regardless of how much exploration you do, you can never really escape the battles. There will be a ton of battles for you to get stuck in and lose horribly countless times. Now, I want to clarify one thing I've heard some people mention about Death Howl, the similarities it has to another indie darling, Into the Breach, which is a roguelite where you are fighting puzzle-like battles with mechs and taking on different regions in a planet. Yes, there looks to be some similarities. The different zones, you can push enemies back, certain objects in battles can give you a boost or a penalty. But that's about as far as similarities go. Death Howl is not a puzzle game. This is a lot more like chess. Yes, chess that makes you hate your life sometimes. Which actually I suppose you could think of chess as a sort of puzzle game too, I guess. But the way you attack and defend are very different from Into the Breach. You'll come across multiple enemies in battles, each with their own movement range and the way they attack, either ranged or close up as in melee. You've got to understand the lay of the battlefield and how these enemies can reach you and hurt you. This would give you a better idea of where you should move and what to attack first. Of course, you are also limited to what you can do because this is a deck builder and you play cards to attack or buff yourself up. The enemies also have a powerful attack that does additional damage or critical hits depending on how they are facing you. For instance, some enemies charge at you in a straight line for bigger damage, but if you stood next to them, they wouldn't be able to critically hit you. So I cannot emphasize this enough. It is all about positioning and prioritizing which enemies to attack. Battles can seem incredibly infuriating, difficult through the roof. Just like Dark Souls, it's all about learning their moves, their weaknesses and strengths to adapt to each battle. But the thing is about the cards, it's not just about attacks or buffs, but many of the cards can affect you in battles in interesting ways. Like some cards can give you a boost to like damage, for instance, for the rest of the match if you kill an enemy with it. Some cards get a boost if you played it first in a round. There are different things that trigger the special ability of that card, which is really cool. There are certain combinations of cards you could play to gain a much bigger advantage. This is the brilliant bit of Death Howl's battles. It's also what incentivizes experimentation and discovering new tactical options. Replaying battles over and over with a different strategy or tactic. While the battles will generally be the same each time you play it, there are times where it may generate a death howl in one of the tiles. Death howls are like the item you get for killing enemies, or in other words, it's basically souls. You can pick them up in battles, or if you're unlucky, the enemy can pick it up and gain a boost. Which in my humble opinion, these random death howls in battles just make things complicated. I feel like they aren't worth the effort. I just tend to leave the battle or die and just try again. While there is not much randomness in the battles, your deck is certainly random, right? It is a deck, so it's shuffled randomly. So yes, there is still luck in the sense that you may get a good hand from turn 1. I found myself just replaying a battle until I got my favorite combination of cards, which definitely helped thin out the enemies early and win battles. And then you have the different realms which have their own cards. Now, you either love this or hate this, but playing cards from different realms is more expensive in terms of the mana cost, which means, yes, the dreaded word, grind. You need to grind battles a lot, collect death howls and other resources which the enemy drops, and craft new cards for that realm. This is actually one major difference compared to a Dark Souls game. Again, I'm no expert at Dark Souls, but I think it's fair for me to say that in Dark Souls, a difficult or a tough boss that halts your progress means you either have to learn and understand the enemy better and get good at it, or maybe level up a bit more too. For the most part, it's never about finding a specific item to be able to progress for the most part. In Death Howl, grind is baked into the design as part of the gameplay mechanic that requires you to craft new cards for the realm you're in that cost you less, so you'll be able to do more per turn, not just learn the enemy's moves and weaknesses. Death Howl is not an RPG, so you're not going to get stronger when you grind. Well, you don't directly grow stronger from grinding. There is no leveling up mechanic. There is, however, a progression system where you can pick some powerful buffs which are locked to specific realms, an ability tree of sorts. So there are some improvements to your abilities when you grind, but I think it's not as impactful as the plain old leveling up in an RPG. Throughout playing this game, I had this dilemma. Just what the heck did I think about this game? Did I actually enjoy it or did I hate it? And I kept playing Death Howl, not just because I wanted to make this video, mind you. I think it kept me hooked despite losing many battles, despite needing to grind to get new cards. I want to remind you that playing other realm cards in a different realm is not impossible, just more expensive. So with some combinations, you could still get pretty far within a realm, even if you don't have an entire deck made up of cards from that realm. It's not entirely a game over, that's my point. And then it all made sense. It all clicked. Because the grind in Death Howl isn't about getting good per se. Even though the grind in Death Howl was about getting the resources to craft new cards and not about you playing the battles better, not exactly about that or getting good. because you play better when you get the right cards you need for that realm. A grind meant it took quite the effort to get new cool cards. It meant you appreciated what you got. Each card was an exciting new prospect for a new tactic to try out in battle, a potential new ace up your sleeve. Like in Dark Souls, grinding and defeating bosses meant you really relished the victory. It was more satisfying. And so it is in Death Howl. Earning a new card, you fought hard, lost countless battles, and eventually you were able to craft it. This was the satisfying reward at the end of all that grind, or at least one of it. Winning battles was also satisfying in its own right. Death Howl has an interesting and weird story, a story I wanted to see to conclusion, but it was none of those things that made me continue to abuse myself by grinding on difficult battles. It is the cards that are the real stars of the show. So I might have made it seem like I don't like this game much, and there are things that really infuriated me. But I get it. Getting those new cards and using them tactically in battles is the core gameplay loop that sold it for me. And while I don't think this is a perfect game, it is certainly one of the most interesting and smart games to close 2025. Death Howl is the type of game I could go back to from time to time. I don't think I'll play it for super long hours. I think I would go insane if I did that. But for short bursts of gameplay from time to time, that is mentally more acceptable to me. Anyway, have you played Death Howl? What did you think of it? Share with us in the comments below. As always, I truly appreciate your views, likes and subs. Thank you and farewell, friends.